There's lack of housing back home, like in my community, crowded homes.
An elder's housing problems are being addressed after photos of her home went viral.
Ton choix. T'es parti. Qu'est-ce que tu veux que je te dise de plus?
And a new play is making its way around Quebec that has a talented group of young actors. Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Savannah Kelly. Today is day 3 of the inquest into the deaths in Smith Cre Nation and the nearby village of Weldon, Saskatchewan. We heard from a member of the Melfort RCMP detachment inside the inquest, and outside, some of the people involved in the incident before the police arrived addressed the media. Video journalist Rachel May is at the inquest in Melfort, Saskatchewan.
This morning, we heard from RCMP Staff Sergeant Ryan Case. He's currently in charge of the Melfort detachment, the detachment closest to Smith Cre Nation. Case was not in charge on September 4th, 2022, but he was able to provide a snapshot of how the detachment works. Staff Sergeant Darren Simons, who was in charge on the day of the massacre, is expected to appear before the inquest next week. According to Case, the Melfort detachment doesn't police its area 24/7. Instead, 16 officers split just 20 hours a day from 8 a.m. to 4 a.m. But the attacks, which saw 11 people killed and 18 injured, happened between 5:40 a.m. and 7:10 a.m. outside of the covered hours. We also learned that drugs played a large part in the case, with Miles Sanderson selling cocaine in the community 3 days prior to the attacks. Case said that from October 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023, there were about 200 calls to Smith Cre Nation. 10% of those calls were mental health related incidents, which he says goes hand in hand with addictions. This afternoon, some band members involved in the incident spoke to the media. Daryl Burns and his sister Lydia Gloria Burns were part of the Reserve's crisis response team. They answered a mental health call that morning. Lydia was killed.
Well, it's just Bonnie and Greg. And she got murdered. So ever since that day, the crisis response has been done. We refuse to go on those calls because, for myself, I went on a few of those crisis response calls, and it was pretty dangerous to myself prior to that.
The inquest continues throughout next week. Rachel May, APTN National News, Melfort, Saskatchewan.
A woman from Barons River First Nation in north-central Manitoba has been transported to Winnipeg with her grandchildren after a viral social media post revealed extreme living conditions on reserve. Tamara Pimentel has this story.
To people, counselors, I need somebody to come and look up my house, what conditions I have here.
Marva George of Barons River First Nation says it took this viral Facebook post to get any help with poor living conditions that worsened in the recent cold weather. Broken baseboard heaters led to frozen pipes, which may have led to sewage backing up into the only bathtub and toilet in her house.
There's lack of housing back home, like in my community, crowded homes, and there's probably more than 10-15 people in the house. My condition with my health, I'm in a wheelchair, and it's kind of hard at times, but I just always think about my grandkids.
8 family members live in this home, and George says the sewage has been backed up now for over 3 weeks.
I had to live the old ways. I had to get a pail for them just to use the washroom. I told my kids, this is how we lived long ago, I said, before we had running water.
To complicate things further, George had her leg amputated in early 2023. She undergoes dialysis regularly. She says after multiple pleas for help with her home, Jordan's principal relocated her and her 3 grandchildren to a wellness center in Winnipeg earlier this week.
Because I needed people to hear me out, but I needed help because of the condition of my house, because we need to live in a better environment when we have kids and when you have health problems. We don't deserve to live like that.
According to Statistics Canada, Indigenous people are 3 times more likely to live in a home in need of major repairs than the non-Indigenous population. George says she wants to see her leadership visit homes regularly to keep an eye on housing. Barons River Chief and Council have not responded to multiple requests for comment. George says there is no room for dialysis treatment in Winnipeg. She has to travel to Selkirk, north of the city. She isn't sure how long her and her grandchildren will be away from home, but hopes to return to a functioning washroom and proper heating to get through the rest of the winter. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
With bitterly cold temperatures in Edmonton, the city has declared a housing and houselessness emergency to find a way to help thousands of people without a place to sleep. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
There was a blow to supporters of houseless encampments on Tuesday when Court of King's Bench Justice Jonathan Martin threw out a lawsuit filed by the Coalition for Justice and Human Rights. The coalition was trying to stop Edmonton police from dismantling houseless encampments. They dismantled 8 camps in the past 3 weeks, removing over 120 structures. Justice Martin said the coalition did not have the experience to speak for the city's houseless population. Yesterday, after a meeting with provincial ministers and Edmonton police, Edmonton City Council held a special session and declared a housing and houselessness emergency. The goal is to find a way to fight the increasing number of houseless people in the city.
Earlier in the week, I said, can we get the adults in the room? And that's what happened.
By a vote of 9-4, the resolution calling for a housing and houselessness emergency was passed.
If we don't treat this as a long-term emergency, more and more Edmontonians will fall through the cracks.
Mayor Sohi said earlier this week that 301 houseless people died last year, nearly double from 2022. And the cold can permanently damage limbs.
The latter part of 2023 was this winter saw 18 amputations. It is by far the single biggest issue our city has been grappling with. So if this is not an emergency, I don't know what it is.
Métis Council member Aaron Paquette was one of 4 voting against the declaration, saying the issue is provincial, not municipal.
If you have an emergency declaration, then you're essentially promising that you are going to divert resources immediately, because obviously if it's an emergency, you need to fix it now. It's an emergent issue, not 6 months from now, not 5 years from now. It's an emergency. Take emergency action. And I looked out at the crowd and I thought, I cannot be part of a decision that makes a promise on housing, on supports, that is going to be unfulfilled.
The next step will be meeting with the federal and provincial governments and the Confederacy of Treaty 6 First Nations to decide further actions. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
As we reported on Tuesday, one of the daughters of a woman believed to have been murdered by a serial killer in Winnipeg has filed 2 human rights complaints. Cambria Harris filed the complaints on behalf of her mother, Morgan Harris, and other Indigenous women, accusing the Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party and the Manitoba government of discriminating against them. Cambria Harris joins us now in studio. Cambria, the Progressive Conservative Party ran part of its recent election campaign on its commitment not to search the landfill for your mother and others, and nobody in the party seems to want to be held accountable for that. What kind of harm did this do to your family and Indigenous peoples in the city?
The harm that the election campaign had brought upon not only my family but the Indigenous community and broader Manitoba and Canada was something disastrous, and it was very, very distressing. It was sending a very clear message that if anyone in the future had ever gone missing and for whatever reason they ended up in a landfill, that the Progressive Conservative Party was not going to search for them. And that's a very disturbing and a very sad message to send out to everybody.
And the other human rights complaint is against the current Manitoba government for not funding a search. The NDP government, including Premier Wabkanu, is saying this is going to get done. Do you still have concerns it won't happen?
No, it's not that I don't have concerns it won't happen. I do believe that we will get the search started. It's just a matter of the fact that there has been such a lack of progress over the last year, and it's not what government did what. It's not what the previous government did or the new government. It's the matter of the fact that the landfills need to get searched at the end of the day, and along the line there does need to be accountability for all levels of government.
And we understand the latest feasibility study on searching the landfill is complete. What can you tell us about the findings of that?
So the CERNAC report was we had a 90-day timeline to finish that, and what it entails is how exactly we are going to search the landfill and what funds are needed, where those funds are going to go, how many team members we're going to need, exactly what kind of roles are going to be out there for who works there, what's going to be in the search facility, and all those sorts of details, and how Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron ended up from a bin to a landfill, and why it's dire to search it, and the amount of distress that it is going to cause on not only the families, but the community if you do not.
And what does it say to you that more than a year after Winnipeg police let it be known that this is likely where your loved ones are, that a search has still not begun?
It's frustrating. It is absolutely frustrating because the families shouldn't have ever had to have taken on this kind of work in the first place. Never in the history has a family ever been asked to present a feasibility study or present document after document to prove that finding their loved one is feasible. And that in itself is very distressing, to have to continuously re-traumatize yourself. And so I guess it's just important that families need to be protected during this process, and 1 year later, families are still sitting here asking the same thing, and we're pushing forward regardless, but that's why it's important to continue to sit here and have these conversations.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Thank you very much.
An Innu play inspired by a true story is making its way through cities in Quebec. We'll tell you more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to APTN National News. An Innu play is currently making its way through cities across Quebec. Based on a book inspired by a true story, it brings together an exciting array of young Indigenous talent. Maricela Amador has the story.
T'as fait ton choix. T'es parti. Qu'est-ce que tu veux que je te dise de plus?
Pourquoi tu viendrais pas vivre à Warat avec moi?
C'est pas à moi de te suivre.
This is Manikanitish, a play that is currently on tour in Quebec. It is a story about reconnecting with one's identity that brought together a talented troupe of young actors, many of whom are performing on a professional stage for the first time.
Je suis en train de réaliser mon rêve.
17-year-old Lashwana Aster Volant is from Maniutanam, and she loves being part of a young cast. Aster Volant came to Montreal for the first time to perform in the play when it first debuted at Giuseppe Theatre last year.
Elle s'appelle Mélina, mon personnage. Elle a 15 ans. Puis c'est une élève qui est plutôt vraiment gênée, mais au fil du temps, au fil de la pièce de théâtre, on peut voir comment elle s'adapte plus, puis comment elle devient plus ouverte.
The play is based on a novel by writer Naomi Fontaine and tells the story of a young Innu coming home after 15 years to teach French and reconnect with her roots. Sharon Fontaine Ishpatao plays Yami Fontaine, a high school teacher at Manikanitish High.
Le cours est pas terminé!
Puis vraiment, quand elle arrive dans cette classe-là, elle est désemparée, perdue, puis c'est vraiment une rééducation de tout ce qu'elle doit réapprendre à propos de l'empathie, la compréhension, l'esprit de communauté, puis un peu d'instinct maternel.
The budding actress said that she was drawn to her character because it hit close to home.
L'inspiration du personnage de Yami part directement de Naomi Fontaine, qui elle-même a enseigné, puis qui m'a enseigné. Donc j'ai été là à sa première année d'enseignement. J'ai à peu près vu tout ce qui s'est passé.
As one of the more experienced performers in the production, Fontaine Ishpatao has taken the young actors under her wing. Chapatu Volant, who is 18 and from Washat Makmaniutanam, considers himself lucky for the opportunity to be part of this play.
Les Autochtones ont fait toutes les mêmes choses que les Allochtones font. Moi, je fais ça parce que j'aime ça, puis parce que je sais à l'intérieur je suis bon. Puis j'aime ça propager l'histoire.
Manikanitish will be on tour across Quebec until June. Maricela Amador, APTN National News, Montreal.
A new 13-part documentary series has just launched on APTN called Ocean Warriors Mission Ready. It features the brave men and women on the West Coast who are out on the water helping in rescues and risking their lives to do so. APTN's Tina House joins us now from Vancouver with the executive producer of the show.
Thank you. Joining me today is a longtime producer for APTN, Steve Sweetzel, now going on almost 15 years producing for APTN, doing many shows. One of your latest creations just went to air. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. It's called Ocean Warriors Mission Ready, and it focuses on Canada's only volunteer Indigenous Coast Guard. So it was formed in 2018, and I thought, what a great concept that would be to highlight these amazing heroes that save lives up and down British Columbia's coast, and they're all from like small First Nations, from here to southern Vancouver Island all the way up to Haida Gwaii and Niska Nation.
That's incredible. Let's take a look at some highlights.
Wala Sakawi de Benita Skachens. Emmons Ubakagaya Machalasi. Lachens Ninuyum. Numbens Tuida Dumski. Lagi Sens Wina Laglis Chalasua.
Steve, that was incredible to see all that action. What an amazing series.
Yeah, thank you. It's I've got 13 episodes, and we hit 4 communities for season 1, which is a Howsett, Quitsino, Alert Bay, which is Cambria Nation, and Bella Bella Heltzik. So it's incredible. We've got some amazing lifesavers that are all in these communities, and they all work as one, and it's just a pleasure to be able to highlight them.
Really, I mean, Indigenous people have been the first ones to respond, especially in the remote communities. I mean, you look at the vast areas of land that we have here on the West Coast, the Salish Sea here behind us. I mean, traditionally, we were always the ones to help other communities and those in need. How difficult was it for you to kind of delve into the past and to showcase the modern day of saving lives?
Well, you know, the people that you are working with, these lifesavers, these volunteers, they really do make it easy, and they're very humble. They don't see themselves as heroes, and I have met heroes in this first season. You know, Kenny Brown, you know, what a guy, and Robert Johnson up in Bella Bella. I mean, these guys just go out in a moment's notice. It doesn't matter what the conditions are. They're just thinking about helping. And that is our way of being. That's who we are as Indigenous people. And that goes back years and years. Even when Contact first came around, we went out and greeted and welcomed. So this is nothing unusual. This is nothing new. It's just modern day life-saving techniques used by trained professionals.
Amazing. For some of our viewers out there that are interested in possibly producing one day, what's some advice that you could offer?
Oh man, have a tremendous amount of patience, and don't underestimate yourself. I think, you know, as a young person, you're so scared to make a move about what you think you can do or what you can't do, but it's not until you actually do it that you realize that, hey, I'm not bad at this, and it's worth changing jobs or delving into a school or moving to another location to chase your dream. You know, don't sit back and wait for it to come to you, because it's not. You have to chase it. You have to want it, and that's basically my road to, you know, somewhat moderate success right now in my late 50s.
Amazing. Steve, always good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations. Back to you in studio.
An honor ceremony was held to recognize 2 First Nations leaders from Manitoba. We'll tell you about that after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. How cold is cold? Well, James White sent this photo of a thermometer that had bottomed out. This was on Saturday at the Buffalo Lake Métis settlement located in east central Alberta. Now that is cold. Hope you're staying warm out there, James. Send your photos to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast, -5 in Fredericton, snowy and -4 in Halifax. Inukjuak, -14 in snow, La Grande River, -15. St. Joliet, -8 in snow, Montreal, -6. Sarnia, snowy and -4, North Bay, -11. Kapuskasing, sunshine and -17, Sioux Lookout, snowy and -20. Churchill, snowy, -17, Norway House, sunshine, -17. Gimli, sunshine and -19, Barons River, snowy and -18. Yorkton, flurries, -18 there, Regina, sunshine and -22. Stony Rapids, snowy, -18 there, Meadow Lake, sunshine, -20. Sunshine and -24 for high level, Fort McMurray, snowy, -22. Red Deer, -21 there, Calgary, sunshine, -19. Canal, sunshine, -16, Bella Coola, -5. Prince George, sunshine, -15, Sandspit, 2 degrees. Watson Lake, -29 there, Old Crow, -18. Norman Wells, sunshine, -20 there, Fort Liard, -20 as well. Paulatuck, snowy and -13, Colville Lake, sunshine, -21. Nauyat, snowy and -18, Baker Lake, sunshine, -16. Arctic Bay, sunshine and -22, Igloolik, -15. Leadership in Manitoba's Northern First Nations held an honor ceremony recognizing 2 leaders in the community. Former National Chief Phil Fontaine and newly elected National Chief Cindy Woodhouse were both in Winnipeg on Tuesday to receive gifts of eagle feathers and star blankets for the work they've done to preserve Indigenous rights. Fontaine from Saugeen negotiated the Kelowna Accord and Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement during his 3 terms as chief. And Cindy Woodhouse from Pinneh-Mutang First Nation helped land a $23 billion child and family class action settlement with the federal government last year.
But my commitment to you as your new national chief is that you have an office there in Ottawa. You have support there in Ottawa. You're not alone anymore, and I'm going to make sure that those doors are opened for you.
I am very proud and honored that you've given me this recognition and the support that you've demonstrated to me. And as I said, it is to me, yes, but it also is to my family, and it is, of course, to the community.
And that's all the time we have tonight on APTN National News. For news anytime, visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Savannah Kelly. Marcy Miigwech, thank you for joining us this evening. Have a great night.